Just take a minute. Look around you. There's history being made. Has been. Will be. How can there not? Just something about those blue skies, high banks, and high speed, all coming together in one perfect race. And it'll be here sooner than you think.
Roll Tide and welcome to this Thursday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. I'm Roger Hoover. Great to have you with us at our studio here in Tuscaloosa as we go through this Thursday show, getting ready for an open date for Alabama football. We'll still be talking some Crimson Tide football, not only American football, but the game of football as well, as you'll hear in just a few moments. We'll go through our headlines for today. Thanks to our friends at RJ Young. They're the official technology solutions provider of Crimson Drive. They've given us a smart board to go through everything that's coming up on the show, including our headlines for today. First things first, we'll take a look back to what was a great Alabama Saturday night against Mississippi State, a solid win for the Crimson Tide, and we'll see all the booth cam highlights from the Crimson Tide Sports Network booth cam. We'll then talk to the man who's calling all those plays, Chris Stewart. He'll be joining us for a Hey Coach preview, as we're excited that tonight on Hey Coach, Nate Oates will be with us in person at Baumhower's Victory Grill. We'll also hear from Coach Saban on the phone. Then we'll be talking the other football, soccer, as Alabama is still #1 in the nation, and once again, Riley Parker is the SEC Offensive Player of the Week. She'll join us for a one-on-one conversation. And then we'll throw it back to Crimson Tide Rewind on Monday. Corey Reamer and I had a fun time at Baumhower's Victory Grill in Vestavia Hills with our Monday night show, and we'll have a replay of that. Be kind, Crimson Tide Rewind coming up in just a few. Also going through the headlines for today, we will start with the Crimson Tide soccer team because tonight they have a chance to wrap up a perfect season in SEC play, taking on the Auburn Tigers at 7:30. Alabama's won the last two matchups against Auburn, and also Alabama's already the 2022 regular season champions, clinched that first ever program title in history with a win on Sunday against the Florida Gators. 2-0 was the final score. Alabama 16-1-1, now 9-0 in the SEC, and next weekend it'll be the start of the SEC tournament held for the first time ever in Pensacola, Florida. Crimson Tide basketball. We are almost here for the start of the basketball season, and coming up on Saturday, we will have a charity exhibition between Alabama and Southern Illinois in men's basketball. The game will be played at Foster Auditorium, and the crowd will be made fully of students, so we really can't wait to have all the students there to enjoy kind of an exclusive game for them. We will have a radio broadcast for the ball game from 1:55 for the 2 p.m. tip-off, so you'll get to hear Chris Stewart, Brian Passing, and Tom Stipe call Alabama against Southern Illinois in the charity exhibition, and then the season will start at Coleman Coliseum November 7th against Longwood. Also, the women's team will have a game earlier that night against Alabama A&M. A few other headlines around Crimson Tide athletics. The men's golf team, Cannon Claycomb, already named to the Haskins Award watch list for one of the most outstanding players in the nation this fall. Baseball will continue play in fall baseball against the Auburn Tigers coming up on Friday at Plainsman Park. And then cross country. The SEC championships will get going after some really great performances we've already seen from Alabama this fall in cross country. And the volleyball team went 0-2 at Georgia last weekend. They are not performing this weekend, but will be back at the middle of next week in Bryan College Station against Texas A&M. But against Mississippi State on Saturday, it was a good win for the Alabama Crimson Tide inside Bryant-Denny Stadium, and we had a lot of fun inside the booth as well. Let's take a look back at our booth cam highlights against Mississippi State from this past Saturday.
Plenty of time here towards the end zone. All day. Could read a book. The pass bounces around now as pressure tries to catch up. Still buying time. Directing traffic. Winds up, throws. Wide open Earl. Touchdown, Alabama. What a play, Bryce Young. Young operating again from the pistol. Will hand it off one side to Gibbs. He'll run right side. 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Alabama. Jahmyr Gibbs, 19 yards. Down to 3 on the clock. 2 on the play clock. 1, they get the snap off. They throw, and it is batted away. And incomplete. And Bama takes over on downs. Gets it, looking, time to throw, now scrambles to his right, looking, throw, and catch made, touchdown, Alabama, Trayshawn Holden. Snap, spot, and kick, plenty of leg there, the kick is up, and that one splits the uprights. Will Riker booted it through with 2:54 to go. Alabama has taken a 24-0 lead. Third and a dozen. From outside the 30, throw near side, knocked away. What a play by Eli Ricks. They tried the back shoulder pass once again to Robinson, but Ricks was there to rake it away. Going for it on fourth down. They're 2 of 4 on those. Rodgers gets the snap. Blitz coming up the middle. Throw goes deep, and it is incomplete. And Alabama turns away the Dogs once again. This is a high, wobbly kick, but one that will be dropped. Bama's going to kick it around, a scramble, and the Tide comes up with it. Riker trying from the near hash, 33 yards away. Snap, spot, kick. All three executed perfectly. Will Riker, 38 yards officially from the near hash. Kick with plenty of leg. It's up, and this one is good as well. He's back.
There we
Will
go.
Riker 3 for 3 tonight on field goals. He's made his extra points. 50, 33, and now 38 yards executed by Will Riker. Oh, man, it is so much better to hear in this place. 9:13 left to play on an Alabama Saturday night here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Experience racing like never before, from the sandy beaches of Daytona to the high banks of one of the most exciting super speedways on the NASCAR circuit. Don't miss out on the 65th running of the Daytona 500 on February 19th, 2023. Witness history in the making and purchase your tickets today at DaytonaInternationalSpeedway.com. Well, you got to see all the fun we have inside the radio booth for Alabama football games, and Chris Stewart filling in for Eli Gold on the call. He's also filling in for Eli coming up on Thursday night with this edition of Hey Coach and the Nick Saban Show from Baumhauer's Victory Grill, and he joins us now to preview what's coming up at the restaurant, also talking some Crimson Tide basketball. Chris, Roll Tide, 8 games down, 4 to go in the regular season for the Crimson Tide. How are you enjoying the open week?
Getting ready for a ball game because we got basketball on Saturday. So not really an open week, but yeah, it is as far as football is concerned. And, you know, I realize it's 4 games to go, but it's still bizarre to hear that we're down to 4 in the regular season. And then we hope, obviously, a lengthy postseason for the Crimson Tide as well. But incredible that we're down to this point where you've got, 3 conference games remaining, and obviously all very, very important.
Yeah, back-to-back road trips coming up to LSU and to Ole Miss. But before we look ahead to those, why don't we go back to a Saturday at Bryant-Denny Stadium? You figured the Crimson Tide would do a lot of things to bounce back from the loss against Tennessee, but what were you impressed with most on Saturday night?
The fact that they did, and I'm not going to say put the game away early, but took advantage of opportunities that were there so that when you went into halftime or certainly early third quarter, you felt like that game was more than manageable. You know, we had seen a couple of times, I think Arkansas comes to mind, a couple of others where you built a nice lead and then the foot came off the gas a little bit. And while you didn't take that to a 40-point advantage as Alabama had done in some other games, Mississippi State is not Utah State. They're not Louisiana Monroe. They're a very good football team that didn't play their best, but Alabama played very, very well, very solid. I thought the ability to get off the field, to turn State away, you know, and it's their mode of operation. They're going to go for it on fourth down, fourth and short, regardless of where they are on the field. And you know, we're trying to get touchdowns rather than field goals after they missed the first one, albeit not a bad miss that hit the upright. But they said, we're going to go for touchdowns. And for Alabama to get the takeaways and stop them was big. And I thought even the fact that State scored on that final drive, Alabama's response to it was big. You know, the veterans that were out there with the mixture of the young guys, not that it's a good thing that guys are mad and getting after each other, but they're sort of policing themselves, so to speak. And Nick Saban doesn't, when coach is not the guy that matters or is most concerned, when it's clear that his players are upset about something and they're taking care of business, I think that's a very good sign as well.
It really is, and specifically with that defense, more guys keep emerging. We heard the name Eli Ricks a lot from the opening whistle this past Saturday night, and that was certainly good to see.
It is exciting to see him getting the opportunity, making the most of it, and playing at the level that we had heard about and seen in his time in another uniform. And boy, is it right on time as we're going back to a place. The main thing is we got to make sure he goes to the right locker room and doesn't go out of force of habit, go the other one. But I think he can be a huge part of what this team does down the stretch of the regular season. And as we said, hopefully deep into the postseason as well.
So again, the Crimson Tide with the open date coming up this Saturday before going to LSU. And also tonight we have Hey Coach and the Nick Saban Show coming on Baumhower's Victory Grill in Tuscaloosa. Just what can you tell us about some of the open date programming? May have a couple of new wrinkles for the show tonight.
Yeah, Glenn Putre, who's the rowing coach, is going to be with us talking about row tide instead of roll tide. We'll also have a chance to visit with Coach, albeit by phone. He will be joining us on the program. We also are going to have Nate Oates joining us there on site at Baumhower's Victory Grill. I'll look forward to visiting with him as the Tide's going to open up exhibition play this weekend. It's a student-only attendance at Foster Auditorium, and we're hoping it's packed full of students, but they'll be there for that. And we're also excited, by the way, that we're going to get a chance to broadcast that game on many of our Crimson Tide Sports Network affiliates and on RollTide.com as well. So that'll be fun for us to get a chance to see the team and get a little exhibition work in ourselves from a radio standpoint with hoops. But also, in addition to Coach Oates, Coach Saban, Christian Miller, who's such a great player at Alabama and great representative of the Crimson Tide program still. We're fortunate to have him with us for several games as our sideline reporter on the radio broadcast, and he'll be checking in, kind of sharing his thoughts from a broadcast, but also a former player perspective on where things are and where things are headed down the stretch.
So that's a fun show coming up. And you mentioned basketball coming up this Saturday. You, Brian Passing, Tom Stipe, getting your first look at the Alabama Crimson Tide. Just what are you most excited about when thinking about this roster and what this season may become for Alabama men's basketball?
I think the fact that it is so deep, Roger, and so talented. You know, Nate Oates had an opportunity to add another player, to add a 13th scholarship player in the transfer portal or junior college route, you know, whatever, or sign another freshman. But he said, you know, if a player's not out there that we felt like could help us now and would really contribute, he didn't want to waste. He didn't want to give a scholarship just to have 13. We got 12 guys, his words, we got 12 guys, all of whom can play and will fight for playing time. And it's as deep and as talented a roster as they've had in a long time. They got a really good test, learned a lot of things about themselves in the matchup with TCU and a close scrimmage a couple of weeks ago. They're going to learn more in this one and take a big step, I think, towards what can be an incredibly special year for Alabama men's basketball.
We're looking forward to it. Can't wait to hear you and Brian and Tom on the call coming up on Saturday, as well as Hey Coach and the Nick Saban Show later tonight in Tuscaloosa. Chris, just thank you for joining us. Roll Tide. We'll see you next week on Crimson Drive.
The wireless is going to be there if you want to join us. I'm just saying. But
it's a fall open date, and I have a fall wedding to attend. You've heard that story before.
No, I don't, because my friends stay away from those. I'm just saying. No,
I'll learn one of these years.
We'll miss you, but have a good time. Well earned for all you do for us on the network. I will not genuinely give you any grief whatsoever for getting a weekend off. If there's anybody in our crew that's earned it, by golly, it's you, partner. So have a good one and Roll Tide.
Just take a minute. Look around you. There's history being made. Has been, will be. And it'll be here sooner than you think.
Well, it's time to talk about the Alabama soccer team here on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. As you know by now, Alabama, the 2022 SEC regular season champions, still have a match coming up tonight at Auburn, trying to go to 10-0 in conference play for a first time in school history. It's just been a really historic year for Alabama. And one of the players that's not only a captain on this team, but has seen the rise of Alabama soccer, even when she started committing to Alabama back in the summer of 2015, is Riley Mattingly Parker. She's put together a tremendous year for for Alabama, leading the Crimson Tide in goals, also tied for the SEC lead in goals with 12 on the season. Here's a one-on-one conversation with Riley Parker about Alabama soccer's historic season. Riley, when you hear about Alabama being number one, being SEC champions, what rolls through your mind?
Oh man, I don't know if it so much rolls through my mind. Is it like when you were going through all that is more just like a pit in my stomach, like just excitement, pride, just enjoyment. It's been awesome. It's been so exciting. Obviously, I'm a fifth year here, so it's just been a blast to see how far this team has come in the time that I've been here.
Well, once again, you're the SEC Offensive Player of the Week, scoring against Mississippi State, and just what's led to some of your great goal scoring opportunities this year?
Oh, my stud teammates, 100%. I mean, all of I don't know if I think most of my goals have came not from solely individual efforts. I mean, we have Felicia Knox, Jessica Skorka, Gianna Paul. Like, I mean, I'm surrounded by some phenomenal players who have just found my head or my foot or me in stride. So they definitely have been making me look good, and I appreciate it. And hopefully, we continue to make each other look good as the season continues.
Yeah, a lot of assists, especially for Felicia Knox, leading the SEC and leading the nation in the moment. Just what makes her so good servicing corner kicks and free kicks, things like that?
Um, I think some of it has to do with just her training style, her intense focus. Like Felicia isn't one to lapse during training or go through spells of lack of focus or drive. So I've said it before, she's just a professional player in my opinion. She loves the game. She loves playing with us, and as much as I love playing with her, um, she's just so good. She has a desire to win, to find the assist, the goal, whatever it is. I mean, she's our playmaker. A lot of teams have started figuring that out and started, putting 1, 2, 3 girls on her at times, but she still somehow finds a way to be open and make an impact on the game. So I can't say enough good things about her. She's just a great player. I've enjoyed playing with her so much.
Let's go back for your journey just a little bit. You, of course, were recruited by Coach Hart in his first days in Tuscaloosa. What do you remember about your first interactions with him, and kind of what his recruiting pitch to Alabama was for you?
So my first interaction with him was kind of funny. I came to camp here, I guess in the summer of 2015, and just came on a whim. It was between here or Kansas, and the Kansas website wasn't working. My mom was like, "Well, let's go to Alabama," and I was like, "I don't want to go to Kansas anyway. It's kind of cold for me." um, so we just came down here, and the campus was amazing. I didn't know what to expect, and I certainly didn't anticipate ending up here. Before visiting, and I just fell in love with the school. Had a blast at the camp, played well at the camp. But my first interactions with Wes, I actually didn't think that he liked me very much. I thought he liked some of my friends that I had came to camp with better. So I was a little bit surprised when he like came and saw me play in one of the following showcases in Phoenix, and then asked me to come on a visit. And I mean, it's been all up from there. But yeah, it was funny because I just didn't know if he liked me at first, and then obviously our relationship has gotten to grow over the past 8 years since he's been here, and from before I came to Alabama and now, and I'm sure even after.
Well, and again, he sold you guys on the vision that you could be part of the first Alabama SEC champion. That's obviously happened this year. And I think a lot of people see Alabama's quick rise this year and go like, oh, something must have changed over the offseason or new players are brought in. But this group came back really strong from a season ago. This has not been an overnight success. You guys have been building for this for years.
For sure. Yeah. And sorry, I forgot to touch on that, but basically that was his selling point to me. Like, I was a part of a great club team who was known for winning. And he said, like, why don't you come help change the program and the culture, and make Alabama soccer, that program, great, in hopes of winning a championship. And obviously we got to do that a few days ago, which was amazing. But yeah, it's been a great ride. I can't imagine doing it anywhere else. So last year was super special. It's just been building on each year that he's been here, that I've been here. Um, just getting more and more of his kind of players in, and the people that want to fulfill his vision of the kind of soccer that he wanted to play. We've had a lot of talented teams in the past, but I think what makes this team so special is just the veteran players on our team, like the amount of girls that came back. We have so many leaders on the team. I know Kat and I are captains, but you could look to any one of the girls, just and how they lead by example and make everyone better on and off the field. So it's been a long time coming, and it's been cool to see how it's improved every single year.
And for you, last year, it had to be great to see Alabama have the success that it had, but it must have been tough as well. You were sidelined for the entire season with injury. Just what kind of work did you have to do with your trainer, Jeff Meek, and everybody on the support staff to make sure you're able to come back and play healthy this season?
Yeah, I could spend hours telling you all about the amazing people that God put in my life to get me to the point that I am today, and leading the SEC in goals and all of that good stuff. Jeff was a huge part of that. We spent hours and hours together just trying to get the knee right, and it's just as much about the mental battle as it is the physical battle. But it was a lot of hard work and effort and tears. I'm not gonna lie, but I mean, it was all worth it. After we won the other night, Aaron Cohen, another rehab person of mine on staff at Alabama, texted me and was like, just tell me, like, finally you got to achieve this after we had talked about it for so long last year in rehab. She's like, dreams do come true. You've been talking about this for so long, and to see it finally come together was awesome.
Really was a special night as Alabama beat Florida 2-0 to get that victory. Now you still have the Auburn match coming up and then the SEC tournament, NCAA tournament after that. Just what do you feel like you guys need to do moving forward to capitalize on the success you have had to this point, winning the SEC, but making sure this becomes an even more special season?
Yeah, that's kind of been the weird part is, you win the regular season championship, and like we still have more games to play. Like we have Auburn to close out the season, and then it's 3 games to win the SEC tournament and 6 games to win a national championship. So I think just doing what we've been doing, the mindset of, we're gonna respect every opponent we play. We're not gonna overlook any game. Take it one game at a time. That's what we've been doing, and we've looked up and we've been on a hot streak. So I don't see why would be any reason to change our mentality now. Every team we're going to play is a good team, and anything can happen on any given night. So I mean, just the continued training with intentionality, increased focus, doing the right things in rehab and treatment, and off the field, as well as on. So I don't think there's anything you change. I think it's just continuing to do the right things.
Before we let you go, how much fun was it to speak at the homecoming pep rally?
Oh my gosh, Wes is such a snake. He did not tell me that I was going to be speaking in front of all those people. And so I thought it was just going to be like, I had never been. So I thought it was going to be just like this little stage, and like just like a mic and speakers, and just like maybe if like whoever was passing by, just an earshot. And then I walk up, and it's literally thousands of people backed up to Denny Chimes on this massive stage with $1 million band at a podium. And I was like, there's no way I'm about to go up here. There's just no way. Like, they're not about to let me get the mic like that. And then so I was like, okay, I'm about to go on. No, they were like, oh, make way, Nick Saban in the leadership council for football is coming through. And I was like, are you joking? Like, I'm gonna have to follow Coach Saban and Nate Oates. And like, I was just laughing, but I had a blast. It was awesome. It was such a good experience for me. But I did call Wes after, and I was like, are you kidding me? You didn't tell me it's gonna be like that. Like, and he just started laughing, but it was so cool.
So Nick Saban, the warm-up act for Riley Parker. We love
Oh
it.
yeah, yeah. He was my opener.
Well,
Yeah.
that's very good. Well, Riley, all the best traveling to Auburn coming up for this match on Thursday night and the SEC tournament, NCAA tournament. Look forward to seeing the soccer team's progress and your progress from here on. But thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations on a great year. Roll Tide.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. Roll Tide.
Thanks to Riley Parker for joining us. Best of luck to her and the Crimson Tide soccer team coming up tonight against Auburn and everything that's still ahead for Alabama. Well, the Crimson Tide football team 7-1 on the season. They've played 8 games so far this year, and on Monday night at Baumhower's Victory Grill in Vestavia Hills, we had another edition of Crimson Tide Rewind as Corey Reamer joined me at the restaurant to have a conversation looking back at the Mississippi State game, also looking forward to what's coming up for the Crimson Tide in November. It's time for Be Kind, Crimson Tide Rewind. Crimson Tide back on the winning track. 30-6 was the final score against Mississippi State on Saturday. And Corey Reamer, that was very good to see.
Yeah, it was. It was great to get back in the win column after a tough loss against Tennessee. It was, not our best performance, I would say. If you look at the box score or you just look at the final score, it looked like a pretty dominating performance, and it was. But, us as Alabama fans have come accustomed to really looking solid no matter who we're playing. And each week we expect a lot of things. And there was a lot left to be desired on the offensive side of the ball this week for sure. Defense stood up, kind of got back in form, holding a high-powered offense, one of the more efficient offenses in the country, to 6 points. I say it was a pretty solid performance, but good to be back home. Not under the lights totally with the little few of the malfunctions that we had with some of the LED lights, and I saw Greg Byrne catching a ton of flack for that. There was people that were saying, we only come to see the lights, and I was like, well, there's also a football game going on.
The game was well lit.
It was, but it was good. Glad to see Bryce Young being able to go out there and continue to play well. After the injury, looks like he's not really having much of an issue with the shoulder, so hopefully that continues for the rest of the season, keep him healthy, and we can finish the season strong.
We got to see the emergence of Eli Ricks as he was in the starting lineup, and he made an impact right away.
Yeah, he did. It was great for his first career start. We've been wondering where Eli Ricks has been. He's a name that was named to a preseason all SEC, preseason All-American before the season even started, the transfer from LSU. Great to see him finally getting out there. You don't know what the reason was of why he hasn't been playing earlier, but that's been a constant question that I was getting, especially over the last couple of weeks. Where is this Eli Ricks guy? This guy's supposed to be one of the best talents at corner. You don't know what the reason is, but he finally earned a start this week, and he lived up to the bill. It might be he's just a gamer, He might be a guy that just shows up when the lights turn on. And I know Coach Saban would rather have the guys that are out there performing consistently in practice. And that might be the reason why he's not seen the field until this week. But after this performance, I think it's going to be really tough for Coach Saban to keep him off the field. I think he only allowed 1 catch. And they try to throw at him about 10 different times.
Yeah.
And he played extremely well. He's just got these arms that are just so long. He looks like he's out of position, and all of a sudden he's just like go gadget arm. He can get out there and bat balls. And he's just really athletic. He's a natural at that position. Knows how to turn into the receiver to play the back shoulder throws or get himself in position if it's some shots down the field. Really excited to see him. It's something that we've needed. And the secondary as a whole played extremely well, I thought, this past weekend as well. Not just him, but his performance was definitely a highlight from this game. I did like the discrepancy between last week's number of penalties and this week's number of penalties. We were talking about it before the show started. 17 last week, and what was it, 3 total, 2 on the final drive? 3 total,
2 on the final drive,
Yes, and the other one was on, a punting formation?
Yeah, so none on the offense.
Yeah, none on the offense, none on the defense, which is it's just hard to believe. And you look around the conference, and it seems that home field might have a few advantages this year. You're seeing a lot of discrepancies when teams are on the road, getting a lot of penalties thrown on them. But it's good. We'll take it. I mean, after the game that we played at Texas with 15 penalties, and after this last week against Tennessee with 17, and you saw they were a little more protective of Bryce Young this week, getting 2 roughing the passer penalties. That's great to see. It's it's part of it. It's the nature of the beast. You don't know who's going to be out there calling these officiating crews that are out there, what they see. There's a lot going on, and it's a fast game. So you just don't know what the reason is for when they do and when they don't. But it shows that we were able to bounce back and improve from a 17 penalty game to go out there with none on the offense and none on the defense. That's huge improvement. Hopefully, we're about to go back into a couple more road games against LSU and against Ole Miss. Those are 2 games that we're not going to be able to have. We got to play just as clean as we did this past week to be able to have success. So we'll see if we can make it happen.
What does Alabama need to work on in the off week? And thank you very much for all that y'all do.
That was going to be my question to you for this segment. So
He took it right away from you.
Good job, Everett.
I think there is, there's a number of things that we've got to continue to improve on. We talked about it a little bit earlier. The running game still needs to be something that, still needs to have some consistency. I think the defense is playing extremely well, and they've got to continue to play that well going against some pretty solid offenses that we're going to face in Brian Kelly's LSU. And Lane Kiffin, he's going to have some stuff that's dialed up for us. But, I think that what we saw last week, not making the mental errors, not shooting ourselves in the foot, those drive-killing penalties that we saw in the past few weeks, that's been a huge improvement for us. But the running game has got to be number one. And you don't have to run the ball, for 100 yards every single game to have success, but it's something that just sets the tone for the offense. And we talked about it a little bit. It's one of those things where you just got to get into that rhythm and open up the playbook for Bill O'Brien and not put us in these long distance situations. And we talked about that a lot earlier on, but I think that's the number one thing.
Is it tough for a team knowing that you have back-to-back road games coming up with so much on the line in the SEC West race?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely something that you've got to really get ready for, because it's going to be two tough environments. LSU handing Ole Miss their first loss this past weekend. It changes that game up a little bit, but it's still an Ole Miss team that Alabama fans have gotten to know pretty well, that they're not going to just show up and lay over for us. And even on years that we didn't expect much out of the Ole Miss team, they've come out and made us go for 60-something point. We're scoring touchdowns left and right. Defense is having to play 100 snaps. It's a fast and furious game, and you got to find a way to win those ball games. So this is definitely tough when you got both of these back to back on the road, especially this one. Not this Saturday, but next Saturday. We know what that environment's going to be like, and we've got a lot of guys that are on this team that are from that area. They're from Louisiana. They're from Texas. They grew up watching these LSU teams and were fans. And we've even seen some moms that are upset that on a signing day that they end up coming to Alabama instead of picking their home team of LSU. So there's a lot of bad blood in this rivalry. It's become a huge game since Coach Saban showed up in 2007. And you better be ready. You better put your big boy boots on, because it's going to be a tough one.
Again, we'll have another edition of Crimson Tide Rewind coming up this Monday at Baumhower's Victory Grill, a Halloween edition. Hopefully you can join us. Coming up at 6 o'clock should be a really fun show as we look forward to what's coming up for Crimson Tide football. Speaking of what's coming up here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network, it is time for our Wickles Weekend Update, brought to you by Wickles Pickles. They are wickedly delicious. Find out more at wickles.com. Let's take a look at what's coming up across the Crimson Tide Sports Network this weekend. Coming up later tonight, it will be Hey Coach and the Nick Saban Show from Baumhower's Victory Grill in Tuscaloosa, as Coach Saban will be joining us on the phone to talk about Alabama football. But don't miss the first half hour with head coach Nate Oates in person at Baumhower's. Really can't wait to see he and his Crimson Tide in action coming up. And that'll be our next event on the network coming up on Saturday, that charity exhibition game against Southern Illinois. Students only allowed inside at Foster Auditorium, but on the radio, you're free to join us, as we will have Chris Stewart, Brian Passing, and Tom Stipe call all the action starting at 1:55. It is a 2 o'clock tip-off. We just cannot wait to see Alabama on the floor for the first time coming up inside Foster Auditorium. Sunday, we'll have another edition of Tide TV This Week, taking a special look at the Alabama soccer team and what's been happening all across Alabama sports over this past week. And then on Monday, we will have that new edition of Crimson Tide Rewind coming up at 6 p.m. from Baumhower's Victory Grill in Vestavia Hills. That's your Wickles Weekend Update. Don't miss out on your chance to experience the energy and excitement of the iconic Daytona 500. Witness history in the making and purchase your tickets today at DaytonaInternationalSpeedway.com. That's going to wrap up this Thursday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Got to say a special thanks to Chris Stewart as well as Riley Parker for joining us. Also a fun look back at the Mississippi State win with booth cam highlights, and Corey Reamer from Crimson Tide Rewind as well. Well, coming up this weekend, don't miss out on the men's basketball game. Listen to the radio coverage starting at 1:55. And then next Tuesday, we'll be back with another edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, as we'll get back to our normal football week programming, getting you ready for Alabama against LSU. Special thanks to our producer, Ethan Carabin, for putting this show together. Thanks to all of you for watching here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. This is Roger Hoover saying have a great weekend, a fun last weekend in October, and we'll see you next week right back here on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. So long, and roll Tide.